Okay, so tonight I'll be making a pork stir fry. I'm going to take this pork loin, cut it in half, use half of it for tonight's pork stir fry, and the other half for tomorrow's pulled pork. So that way we get two different meals out of it. And this was actually cut in half from a bigger pork loin. So we've gotten quite a few uses out of it. And then over here, I've got two bell peppers, red and yellow, onion, and cabbage that are going to go in the pork stir fry. Okay, so I've taken out the pork, and now I'm going to put the peppers, onions, and cabbage in here. Okay, so I've got all the veggies coated in the oil, so I'm going to just cover it now, let it simmer for a little bit to bring out some of those vegetable juices and soften them up just a tad bit. Alright, so at this point I'm going to go ahead and add the pork back in. Get those delicious juices out of there. We're going to throw a little bit of soy sauce. And the key to this dish, besides the rest of the food, is hoisin sauce. Somebody told me about this, and it's one of those things you're kind of, I guess for me, I was a little intimidated of using. But when I saw it at the food pantry one day, this is not something they've ever offered at the food pantry, but that one day they did, and I was praying nobody took it. So I did, and I don't regret it. It's a bit gooey, so you have to just take it out with a spoon. It ain't too bad. And you don't want to put a lot in at one time. You just put it in, stir it up, let it simmer, and taste it. Now, the last time I made this pork stir fry, I added just like a teaspoon of brown sugar, but at that point, Glenn said it didn't matter for him if it was in there or not, so I'm going to see how it is without it. It did give it a little sweetness, but we'll see how this tastes without it. Yeah, just put that stuff in, mix it up, and then cover it up a little bit more for a little while more to let it simmer and get those juices to come together. Oh, this looks so good. It smells good. Too bad there's not smell-o-vision on YouTube, because this smells delicious. Oh, and it looks so pretty with all those colors of the bell peppers and the cabbage. All right, I'm going to let it simmer for just a little bit more, and then we'll be ready to eat. All right, everyone, so here is another meal idea for you. Using pork loin, bell peppers, cabbage, onion, and white rice. So a simple meal that I was once intimidated by, and Yeah, no more. It's delicious. If you've never cooked with hoisin sauce, pick some up. You won't regret it. So, yep, there it is. Pork stir fry and white rice. All right, everyone. So it is Sunday afternoon, and actually, it's not even noon. It's right before noon. It's 11:53. But we didn't have breakfast today, so we're going to do lunch now, and I'm going to make some nachos for lunch using a combination of items we received from the food pantry in the past 2 weeks or so, and then some items we have just as staples. So this bag of On the Border Cantina Thins, we received this from the pantry a couple weeks ago. So I want to get these used up. It looks like a lot of them are like kind of almost broken, but we're going to get them used up so they don't go to waste. And then this can of refried beans we received from the pantry this past Thursday. And then we have some avocados. So I'm going to make a guacamole. We're going to use some sour cream and jalapeno cheddar cheese for Glenn's nachos and mild cheddar for mine. So that's, oh yeah, well, yeah, I went over the refried beans. I thought I forgot the beans, but all right, so that's what our nachos are going to consist of, and that's what we're having for lunch. All right, everyone, so I'm just going to make my guacamole. I've got the beans warming up on the stove, and yeah, the guacamole I make very simple. It's actually not even all the way ripe, but I haven't had much luck with avocados lately. I would buy them while they're still not ripe, and then like a day or two later, they're already browning. So what I did with this batch to keep it from browning so fast, I think it helped, is I put them in our hallway or mud room. I think I did mention that it is like a mudroom, or it is a mudroom, but because it's colder in there, it keeps everything fresh longer, and I think it helped the avocados from browning so quickly. So this also tells me the avocado isn't quite to the ripeness stage. Is when you stick the knife in there, the seed, the pit, will just squeeze out. And this one is going to take some working. So see, it just breaks it. So that tells me it's not quite ripe either. So I'm just going to take a spoon and work it out of there. Now, when I was growing up in California, we used to have avocados all the time, and my dad used to take the pits and put some toothpicks in them and hang them in a glass of water, and he would just replant them. And he had himself a nice big shade tree in the backyard. We grew such a big shade tree, but I don't know if he actually had any avocados on it. But he had a nice tree though. I got eating avocados from my dad. He loved them. He loved avocados, and I love avocados, but I just don't like the brown spots. All right. So I'm just going to throw a little bit. Actually, I have lime juice, I think, or lemon juice. I'm going to throw a little bit of that in there, a little bit of salt, and start just smashing it up with a fork. Okay, so I'm just going to use this a little bit. Normally I use lime juice, but I'm going to use this lemon. We got this big bottle from the pantry a couple of weeks ago. It's 32 ounces. So I'm just going to use a little bit of that juice, some salt. Just kind of break it down. I mean, you can add whatever you want in here. Peppers, onions, whatever seasonings. I usually just do it like this because that's the way I like it. Glenn doesn't really like guacamole that much, so it doesn't matter. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's blue jays squawking at the feeder. So we have been in mild temperatures, like in the 30s, mid to high 30s. And it looks like it's going to stay that way in the next 10-day forecast. We're really not looking at serious weather, snow or cold temperatures. So I'm grateful for that. It's been an unusual winter. Usually January and February are our coldest months and our snowiest, but it's been unusual. Doesn't mean it's not going to come back. We usually can expect 1 to 2 sub-zero cold spells in a winter. Definitely 1, sometimes 2, but we'll see what happens. All right, let's give this a taste. I don't know if I had that salt yet. Yeah, I used to use a masher, but a fork is just as good. Kind of less mess to clean up in a masher, or less clean up on a fork than a masher. I throw a little bit of more lemon juice, a little bit more salt. It has a good taste, so on the surface it didn't seem like it was ripe all the way, but it tastes good. All right, so I think that's set, and I'm just going to wait for the beans. I'm warming up the beans real slow because Glenn just actually woke up, and you know how when you just wake up, you're really not in the mood for food, especially a heavy food like nachos. So I'm just going to give him some time to wake up and get hungry. All right, so stay tuned. All right, everyone. So for Friday night supper, I'm using 3 items from the food pantry. And the only item I'm using from our pantry is the white rice, which is cooking right now. So from the pantry, I'm using these 2 bell peppers and this 1 pound of ground beef. I've made this meal plenty of times. It's easy, it's delicious, and so I'm just gonna cut up these bell peppers, chop up the ground beef and cook them together, and then add rice. So it's almost like a fried rice. It just doesn't have the egg or anything else, but I guess you can say that. So that's what I'm making for this Friday night. Something really simple but delicious. All right, so let's move on with this meal. Alright everyone, so this is all that's left to do, is just mix it together. And the reason I don't put any sauce or anything in it in the pan itself is because Glenn will probably use paste picante sauce on his, and I will use soy sauce on mine. And I don't salt it too much because the soy sauce is going to give it some salt. So I don't need to put too much salt in it. But it's a quick meal, a good meal, easy. Alright everyone, so this is our lunch for this Saturday afternoon. So we had this for supper. We had a little bit left for like one person, so we decided to make another pot of rice and add another half pound of ground beef. And that way it gave us a filling lunch. So there's just a little bit tiny left, so we'll finish that off and we'll finish off the whole thing. So we're just having the same thing for lunch today, and nothing gets wasted, and we're having some vanilla pudding with that. So